If you've clicked on this video, there's a really good chance you probably saw this one. This right here was one of my best performing videos of last year. And just to quickly recap, the message essentially was resin 3D printing, awesome, but definitely not for everyone. FDM printing, finally good, and good enough for most people. And I want to kick off 2025 by revisiting this topic because, my God, do we need a win? Views are down. It's a bloodbath out there in the 3D printing miniature hobby niche at the moment. So in this video, I want to address the number one criticism I received on that video, and that is that I printed Terminators. How dare I print Terminators? I should have printed 25mm miniatures. So that's what we're going to do today, and I've got some excellent little tiny spindly 25mm minis to print up. I'm using a brand new 3D printer, and it is kicking out just fantastic high quality little FDM prints. But there have been some challenges, so I'll share all that with you here today. And speaking of the bloodbath on YouTube and how hard it is to make a go here on this platform, the miniatures I'm going to be printing are from the Kindred of the Abyss campaign by Tabletop Time that's live on BackerKit right now. Now, this video is not in any way sponsored. I just reached out to them to see if I could get an advanced copy of the files because I want to help out some fellow Aussies and some fellow content creators and maybe build some goodwill in the process. So this video is completely dedicated to Tabletop Time. I've been really fortunate to have a successful year on YouTube in 2024. I hope I have another here in 2025. But those guys are trying to make it work with like multiple staff with, like families and stuff. I've just got a couple of rabbits here. So they need all the help they can get. So come visit Kindred of the Abyss on BackerKit. I'm going to leave a link down below. You can get these files. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. And look at that. 45 bucks, roughly 30 USD for the whole set. That's incredible. Take my money. Confirm. Sick. We're in. Okay, I'm doing my part.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
Join me and support Tabletop Time. Let's keep them going for many years to come. So the team over at Tabletop Time were kind enough to send me some advanced copies of the Kindred Reavers and the Kindred Malformed. And all of these sculpts are just absolutely incredible. I love the deep sea nautical theme. It's very cool and completely conjures up that Bioshock Art Deco horror vibe thing so well. And I did print up some units from both, but for this video, I really want to focus on the Kindred Reavers because they are very small, dainty little dudes. Like they've got harpoons and there's little ropes and stuff. So these are really going to be a challenge for FDM printers. And judging by the size of them, I'm pretty sure they're 25mm sculpts. Like they're the same size as Guardsman, but then didn't Guardsman recently get upgraded to 28mm? But whatever, they're small, they have tiny details. That's the main point. And to print these up, I used the 0.25mm nozzle that FlashForge sell separately. Oh, and by the way, full disclosure, yes, the printer was sent to me for free. I will be participating in the affiliate program, so do consider me a paid shill if you're thinking about buying one of these as a result of this video, please. But I actually would still recommend an A1 or an A1 Mini if you're just looking to get into printing miniatures, because this printer really shines if you also want the ability to print like other materials. But I'll have a full in-depth video on this machine, hopefully out soon. So if you're interested in that, get subscribed. For now, I just want to focus on the miniatures that I've been printing with this thing. To me, I think they've turned out fantastic, which I think is in large part to this printer also coming with really great print profiles like the Bamboo Lab printers. And these print profiles, yeah, they are tuned really excellently. I was blown away with the quality of these parts, and hopefully you can see for yourself, like these are FDM prints, and we will get some paint on them really soon. But just quickly, I want to talk about the challenges that you will face with FDM printing miniatures, because it's not all rainbows and sunshine. And the biggest problem that you're going to run into, and it's what I ran into here, is the automatic supports. Because unless you're specifically printing something that's been designed to print without the use of supports, you're going to need them. And so there are a few things you want to be thinking about as you prepare any miniatures for printing on an FDM printer. Now, the first time I tried to print these Reavers off, I just enabled automatic true supports and then sent it. And what came out the other end, while technically a very successful print, and I could spy some very high quality models hiding beneath all those supports, the supports were entirely encapsulating, which meant as I carefully tried to remove them, I couldn't avoid breaking a bunch of the parts. Because FDM prints are always going to be very fragile along the direction of the layer lines. So that's one thing you want to be keeping in mind when you slice stuff, how you should orient your parts for the best strength of important, maybe delicate features like swords or arms or legs. But then too much surface contact with supports can also be a bad thing, which again, orientation can come into play in a big way there in that regard. For example, if you printed a sword parallel to the build plate like this, it's going to be as strong as possible because you've got the direction of the layer lines working to your advantage. However, the underside of that sword is getting absolutely bombarded by supports. And so there's a good chance you're probably just going to break it anyway as you try and remove them. But also just that supports tend to leave a bunch of scarring on the model. And so the more surface area you have contacting supports, the more of your model doesn't look as good. Now, printing miniatures on FDM printers is something very new to me and where I have very limited experience. So I decided at this point it would be a good idea to go do some research and brush up on my knowledge on this area. And I was really stoked to see that Painted for Combat had covered this exact topic just 2 months ago. So I checked that video out and I learnt a ton, and I'm going to leave a link down below because I highly recommend you also go check this one out if this is a topic of interest to you as well. Because did you know that you can paint on FDM supports? You probably did. I have a feeling this is a well-known thing and I'm just an idiot who didn't know about it, but this completely blew my mind. I did not know this was a thing, and so this was a very exciting revelation for me, and I had a lot of fun with my next print, which was a lot more successful, just taking the time, and this was actually quite reminiscent of resin printing, actually, in some ways, just taking the time to paint on exactly where I want the supports to be and to paint on the support blockers, which is like the opposite, and it tells the slicer, hey, whatever you do, don't put a support here. And this result was so much better. I had a much easier time relieving these models of their supports at the end of the print, and they turned out amazing. But these aren't the Reavers I was talking about, these are the other ones. But now having cut my teeth on these, we're ready to tackle the Reavers. So that was what I did next. And same thing again, I took my time, I sat down, I threw on some music, and I painted. I became the support painter. And we did it, we got it done, and we sent it. And actually on this one, I opted to not use the blockers because I was curious to see how that would go. In hindsight, I wish I had used the blockers because parts of these models were a little bit over-supported in some areas and a bit difficult to remove. But overall, a pretty good result. Now, I did lose some of those tiny little ropes, but for the most part, everything is there. And if you're still not convinced that FDM printing is up to the challenge of small, dainty 25mm models, stick around, because after I get these painted up and I showcase them here for you today, I've also been lurking in the background in the 3D printing communities, and I've put together a little gallery, a showcase of just some incredible shit that I want to share with you, that if you aren't convinced yet that you can print miniatures on FDM printers, I think this is going to change your mind, or at least show you that, hey, it's possible. And if you still want to print in resin, if resin printing is for you, that's fantastic. Like, yeah, resin printing does insanely high detailed models, and that's awesome. That might be what you're looking for. And if you're willing to put up with the mess, the toxic fumes, and all the rest of the bullshit that comes with resin 3D printing, you're going to love it. It's incredible technology. And support removal is a lot easier with resin prints if they're done well versus the automatic supports in the FDM world. You know, each one has their pros and cons. Resin printing is a lot faster too. But again, that may not matter for you, as an FDM printer for many people can still output miniatures at a faster rate than they can be painted and made ready for the tabletop. Anyway, moving on. To base these models, I grabbed some air dry clay and just kind of mashed this onto the bases and spread it around. And then I used a rock to hopefully add some texture to them. And this worked pretty well. I really like this approach because you can then sink the model's feet into the clay while it's still fresh, creating a perfect impression, so that later on when you glue them in, it's as if it was made for them, which, it absolutely was, because you just did it hours ago.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
After that, I got my airbrush set up and put down a black base coat over all of these minis, and I actually broke one of the rules of airbrushing here just out of curiosity, and I absolutely hosed down the bigger ones, the malformed models, just because I printed those in this bright orange, which is like an absolute nightmare to try and cover evenly. Like if this was a resin print or a plastic injection molded model, you would have to like spray it in multiple passes to get a nice even coverage without pooling and paint running everywhere. But the FDM prints, to my amazement, just drank up that paint, which was fantastic because it made just base coating these so much easier. But anyway, after that, I got everything coated with a nice and pretty heavy zenithal highlight with just a pure matte white. And this is always a fun point in the process to reach because now you can like finally see the details. And yeah, obviously these aren't as good as if they'd been printed in resin, but man, are they good enough for me? Like I'm so blown away with FDM printing that this is even possible. Like just a few years ago, there were people doing it, but it was like, it looked really unapproachable. Like you had to change a million settings, do a lot of experimentation, and it was a lot slower as well. It's still slow now, but like then it was just an order of magnitude slower. This new generation of printers is just incredible. Feels like we're living in a golden age for FDM printing right now with these just fantastic printers from like Bamboo Lab, FlashForge. I think even Creality is now putting out good ones. Maybe. We've got the K2 Plus out now, which apparently by all accounts is incredible. I've got one. We'll get to it eventually. But continuing with this paint job, as ever on this channel, I've got no idea what I'm doing. I'm just sort of winging it, trying to go for some sort of slap chop type paint job. And to start with, I chose to paint like all the cloth elements of these dudes in a sort of murky green, which was looking pretty good. And then after that, I went in with a copper metallic to just sort of basically get everything else. And at this point, I was starting to not really love how this was turning out. Then I grabbed a dark, leathery sort of brown color and started applying this to the leftover details. And at this point, I think I was getting a little bit sloppy because I wasn't feeling super inspired by my paint job so far. And the thought crossed my mind, like, what would it look like if I just smothered this over everything? So that's exactly what I did. And actually, this turned out great. Like, it looks very dark and murky and you can't really see much at the moment, but like this really gave me the wind that I needed here, and it gave me the wind in my sails to press on, because now like working up from this, I know it's going to look a lot better a lot sooner. And so after this, all I did was just switch gears now into layering, and the way I did this was I mixed my speed paint colors with a little bit of this. This is a new one to me. I picked up this AK Interactive colors set, and this is like a bunch of different whites, and I mixed in the off-white here with the different speed paints to create my layer paints, which worked okay, but they were maybe a little runny for my taste. But anyway, I just sort of went around and just layered up the green, and then I came in and like sort of edge highlighted / dry brushed the copper back over top, and already this to my eye is just looking so much better, and I was feeling so much more thrilled with this paint job. And really the only thing I struggled with from this point on was the two dudes that I'd put together without helmets. And this is one area where I think it's sort of, if you look at them too closely, the print quality is a bit of a letdown, and that's the heads. But I stuck to it. I ended up going back and base coating the heads in Vallejo's Sunny Skin Tone, and then I busted out the ancient original V1 Agrax Earthshade that I have, and it's nearly empty. It's going to be gone soon. It's so sad. And I smothered that all over their heads, and then came back in and did some highlights with the Sunny Skin Tone, and then I added some white to the Sunny Skin Tone, and I got it brighter, and I tried to focus that on like the nose and the eyebrows and the cheekbones and stuff. And I think now they look good, passable, serviceable. Like the thing is, right, with these, most of us are painting for games, right? And these look fantastic on a table, and I'm super happy with how they turned out. Oh, and with the bases, I just did some little grass tufts, blacked out the rims, and I also used that green speed paint color on the bases. So it just, it ties it all together. They're very drab and murky and dull, but it totally works. Totally works, in my opinion. I don't know, do you agree? Do you think this level of quality is just not good enough for the tabletop hobby? Would you be upset if you showed up to a game and your opponent put these down on the table? Now, if for you personally this isn't good enough and you want that higher detail, then yeah, get a resin printer. That's definitely the way to go if that extra quality really matters to you. But for a lot of people, I think this is good enough. One of the comments I frequently saw on that other video as well is that this level of FDM quality is better than the lead and pewter cast miniatures that we had 30, 40 years ago, which I have very little experience with. I did have a original Avatar model from the 90s. I wish I still had it. God, I think it'd be a fun video idea actually to try and recreate my lost childhood Eldar army. Let me know if you want to see that. So yeah, there we go. That's the final result. It's not perfect. We lost some tiny little details like those ropes. They were just too delicate for this process, which is unfortunate, but overall I don't think detracted from the final result too much. We got them painted. We got them ready for the table. I'm very happy with the outcome here. So go grab these models for yourself over on BackerKit. Go give Tabletop Time a hand and yeah, get yourself some excellent models in the process. I'm going to close out this video with the showcase of other FDM printed miniatures that I mentioned earlier. But before I do that, I quickly got to shout out my own Patreon. If you want to help support this channel and keep things going here, I deeply appreciate it. And I've got a bunch of STL rewards for you as well, so you don't get nothing for your money. These models were generously donated to my members by the very talented Arcane Whiskers, Artificers Mini, Goetia Miniatures, Imp3D Sion, Moid, Smuggler Boutique, and Tractor Minis. If you like the style of any of the miniatures you see here from these creators, I've got links for all of them down below. Go check them out. Look at their My Mini Factory pages, their Purple Site pages, see what they're doing. If you like anything, go buy it, give them some love. But yeah, if you come join my membership this month, you're going to get all of these files, so I highly recommend it. You also get access to our Discord community. There's also a welcome pack with a ton of 3D printable goodness in there as well. It's really good value. So hope to see you over there. Thanks for watching. Oh, are you subscribed? Come on, get subscribed. You know you wanna. All right, whatever. Let's look at some fantastic FDM printed minis.